little review and a how-to really on a new sharpening system here. This is the ViperSharp precision sharpening system. It's developed by a guy called Mike Wood, who's basically looked at sharpening systems and thought, what can I do better and how can these be improved? And there are some really significant improvements on this system compared to some others that I've used. So if you follow my channel, you'll know that I've used the Lansky, which I have had really good results on, but there are some shortcomings in its design for sure. And I've also used an Edge Pro Apex style system, and this certainly significantly improves on both those systems. And it doesn't really stop there, because Mike is constantly looking at ways to improve this. So he's not a massive company, it's just a single guy. I think he's going to be bringing out this on Kickstarter as well, so there'll probably be an opportunity to get some good deals that way. And yeah, so this video hopefully will show you what's included in the kit. So this is the V2 system. It comes with both synthetic stones in the sort of grits that you'll be familiar with. So it comes with 3 synthetic stones with 220, 600 and 1200, and then 3 natural Arkansas stones of 3 different grits as well. So probably we'll get in there and look at what comes in the pack, how it all goes together. We'll get some demonstrations of its use, and then we'll reflect on what's good about it and what could still putting together the kit is incredibly intuitive if you've ever used a sharpening kit before. If not, there's some simple instructions online and I can show you how to do it in 30 seconds, I think. So basically you've got the base, and you've got this this main piece here which will hold the clamp, and it'll hold the sharpening stone arm as well, and that's just a push fit into the base. The next bit really to put on is the swivel for the sharpening arm. So if we get all these bits out here, so you've got 2 Allen keys, a swivel and a little stop there with a grub screw. Swivel goes on up here, screws in a good way, and just as you get to the end of the travel, you just want to back it off half a turn or so, just because you do want it to still swing like that. Okay, so next up is a sharpening arm that pops through the swivel like that, and you'll want to put the backstop on there initially, just to give it a home. You don't want to lose this grub screw. Give it a pinch tight like that, and then you've got the clamp. So the clamp is operated with this Allen key, and we'll just pop a blade in as an example. So you back off the Allen key, a couple of turns, make sure there's plenty of clearance in there, pop in your blade, get it so it's fairly central on the blade, taking into account any sort of swing. So you just want to even it out and imagine how that stone's going to approach the blade. Get it just beyond pinch tight. There's rubber grips either side, and that swings or slides into the slot there, and you're almost ready for sharpening. So the stones simply clip in, so just pop in a 1200 stone there, front and back, and pop, that's in, firm, and then you're going to approach the blade like that. And just looking at this backstop, you just want to set it at a depth or a location where it's not going to allow the edge of the stone to pop off the end of your blade. So actually, that's about right. We're going to sharpen our first blade. This is the Boca XS. So if you've watched my channel, you'll find a review of this. But quite a popular slip joint in 440C steel, so very easy to sharpen, easy to take a good edge. We're just going to set the angle, and I'm going to mark up the edge with a Sharpie so you can start seeing where the stone's hitting it. So that really helps identify whether you've got the your sharpening system set up correctly. Quite a well-known trick this, very helpful in getting a good edge and consistency to getting your bevel done. So just something to note here, normally the systems I've used in the past, I'd use a honing oil, so you basically use the stones dry and then use oil afterwards to draw out the metal particles. Mike sort of recommends using these stones wet, so these have all been soaking for about 5 minutes in water, and then basically to maintain that you just rinse them off every time they become blocked in water. If that doesn't work as well as I'd like it to, I'll go back to the dry approach with a honing oil, but it's much harder to go back the other way. So we'll just clip the stone in here, and we'll line it up with the edge, and I'm just going to use the bevel to set its own height. So you can just line it in and use a stone just to lead up the angle. Let's have a go with that. I'm just going to bring the guide down a little bit further to get a bit more of a swing at this. So I'm going to back this off just under an inch, just to utilise a bit more of the stone, and we'll get sharpening. So we've done the first bevel with the coarsest grit, so we'll just flip it over and hit the other side, the angle being consistent, nice and easy to do. So just finished off with the coarsest grit, the 220. As you can see, it's rinsed off really nicely, so all the metal particles are out of that. And we've got the freshly soaked 600 grit. The final stone, the 1200. Next up, we're going to try a Swiss Army knife. This is Victorinox Farmer, and if you've ever used a Lansky system before, you'll know that smaller blades, which are, I guess, shallower in profile, are a bit of a nightmare because the stones clash with the grub screw. In this instance, I'm hopeful that that's not going to be the case, because it is an Allen operated system rather than a finger operated system, if you will. So it should have better clearance. So we'll just load this up. Again, aiming to get the blade sort of 50-50 and imagining where that stone's going to swing. Just mark up the edge to try and assess the bevel. And this is a very well used blade, seldom sharpened for the reasons I've described, because it's a bit of a pain on the Lansky, or impossible rather, so I have to use freehand sharpening stones. And we'll pop that in. We'll start off with the 600 grit. Yeah, that's taking off the marker nicely. Okay, so we've had a little go with two knives here, the Boker XS and the Victorinox Farmer. So I'm ready sort of to share some first impressions really. As with any sharpening system, you'll always be refining your own sort of abilities and skills with the system. So this is very much first impressions, but there's some interesting points I'd like to share, and some things I like and some things which I think could be done differently or improved. So the things that I like, obviously the ability to achieve the constant angle with a single setup where you can flip the blade easily using this easily positioned clamp is excellent. As long as you keep the grub screw at the back there firmly gripped, that angle remains consistent, which is a must with sharpening. The stones swap out incredibly easily, so literally in seconds, and there's no need to swap rods or anything like that, all things which could create variations in your angle, so that's really important. I do actually like using these stones wet. The stones glide really well when they're sort of well soaked in water, and also they don't build up any sort of debris really, so that's really quite nice. So I'll continue to use these stones wet. Also, another big bonus over other systems I've used, particularly the Lansky, is the ability to utilise a smaller blade. So as long as you keep the blade well forwards, so really pinching it as tight as possible to as far out as possible, if you will, like that, the sharpening can reach the blade even when it's a relatively small sort of penknife style blade. So that's really important. The quality and fit and finish is excellent, so you've got really nicely deep anodised pieces, everything fits together perfectly. In particular this, like the ability to switch this out, the way the edges are smoothed over, rounded, makes that work really, really well. So the fit and finish is great. And I think probably the last point about what I really like on this system is kind of the guy behind it. Mike Wood is a kind of a one-man band. I'm sure he's outsourcing the production, but this is very much his product and he's constantly evolving it. I've shared some thoughts with him by email, and we'll get onto those in a minute, because there's a few things that I would like to see considered as a further evolution of the design. So the things which I think could be done a little bit better or differently is something to do with the variation you get with a thicker blade. So anything thicker than this Boker XS, you will get a slight variation between the angle of attack on the bevel on one side and the other, simply because of the way this clamp's designed. A thicker blade will bring about a degree of asymmetry, and the thicker it gets, the greater that will be. So I think that could be countered by creating a sort of small pack of, sort of say, 1mm shims, which could go into that and help with that offset issue. The other thing that I would really like to have considered as a sort of improvement is somewhere to keep these Allen keys. These Allen keys are absolutely vital to the use of the system. So without this one you can't clamp your blade, and without the smaller one you can't adjust the pitch or the sort of the length of the amount of stone you're exposing to the blade. So they're both really important. And that pair of Allen keys got me thinking about Floyd Rose tremolo systems on guitars. If you've ever used one, you'll know it's absolutely essential to the operation, the changing of strings, the tuning. You've got to have two Allen keys, and there's a little device which helps bolt those onto the rear of the headstock. And I just think, actually, because they're so pivotal, if you could just have even just a couple of little holes to store these in the bass, that'd be really helpful, because it will be incredibly annoying when you lose these. Another tiny little thing is that this rear locking ring, the rear stop, has got a tiny grub screw. Very nicely machined, very nice. You can pick up additional ones from Mike Wood at a very small price, but I thought actually pop an extra grub screw into the pack for pennies. That would just save a lot of frustration if, again, you lose that. Another thing I'd think could be done to improve the system is the connection between the pillar here and the base. At the moment it's a very positive friction fit, which is great, it works fine, but just a bolted connection would make it that little bit more robust, I think. One other thing I'd like to see considered is the case. At the moment it's a well padded protective case, everything fits in, that's great, but once you've got your stones and you've got them in use, it'd be really good to have a separate little slot for each stone, because you don't really want the grit from one coarse stone rubbing off onto a finer stone, because that really will become a pain when you're just trying to get that perfect finish. So if the case could be fitted cut foam, that would be really, really good. And I think the only other thing that came to mind was the ability to provide a stropping product. So basically one of these stone carriers with a thick leather strop attached to it would be really, really helpful. I do like the guided strop system you can get on the Lansky system, and it'd be a very worthwhile addition to this system. And having contacted Mike, whether he does all or any of those things, he certainly is just about to release a leather strop, so that's good. So that's something coming to the market very soon. And that's really sort of the things which I would like to see evolved. And because Mike is sort of constantly working on this product, whether my assessments are correct or not, you can bet that Mike will be constantly evolving this system. Okay, so I suppose the last thing to ponder is the price. Haven't mentioned it till now. It's fair to say this isn't a cheap system. This is $185, which puts it significantly above the Lansky system, which I think is fair, because this is significantly better than the Lansky system. The way you set your blade, the consistent angle, the guide system, the stones, the attachment, it's head and shoulders above Lansky. It's marginally cheaper than Edge Pro Apex, and it's considerably cheaper than Wicked Edge. I think this product's probably quite well priced, because I think I'd choose this certainly over an Edge Pro style system, having used that. The Wicked Edge, pretty over designed. You've got two sets of everything, you've got two sets of guide rods, you've got two sets of stones, and I guess that's really where the additional price comes with the Wicked Edge system. But yeah, this is a great product. Mike has done a wonderful job in developing this, and very much a labour of love. The quality of fit and finish is great, and yeah, I think really definitely something to consider if you want to up your sharpening game. And certainly if you've used Lansky systems, a lot of the frustrations you'll have experienced through that system are remedied here. So yeah, really big thumbs up for this product. That's about it. I'll continue to use this, and I will enhance my own sharpening abilities, I'm sure, as time goes on. Obviously, if you haven't seen my channel before, check it out. If you're into knives and everyday carry, quality footwear, boots, denim, coffee, watches, fountain pens, all sorts of different stuff. Also got back into guitar recently. Check out my channel. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love it if you subscribed. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.